happiness that comes with a happy marriage. Don't forget, this show is brought to you by BridgeAfrique magazine, home of Bliss, and panaceavilleinternational. I'm Nancy Oblete. I host this show. I'm a marriage coach and a behavioral change expert. So today on this show, we have a very interesting couple. People I'm certain we will learn something from again today. And they are none other than Mr. Ben and Mrs. Florence Oketona. Welcome, sir and ma, to Rings That Bind.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. And we are pleased and excited to have you. And also, listener, remember that this is our 13th episode. We have come a full quarter and we are so excited. Now we want to have a special edition of this show where we get to hear from you what you want, your views. If you have questions, we want to hear that. So reach us. If you want to even come live, we'll be glad to have you come live and let's interact together. Just reach us, indicate, and we'll surely get back to you. So our couple, Mr. and Mrs. Oketona, have been married for just about 22 years and they are blessed with 3 girls. We're going to be hearing their story and everything that they have to teach us from 22 years journey. But before we do that, Sir, please, can you just introduce yourself so that we get to know you a bit?
Okay, good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Florence Oketona. I'm a media consultant and author. I'm a mother and a wife.
Wow, nice to meet you, ma.
And a gender advocate.
Wow, interesting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure that you agreed to be on the show with us today.
Yeah.
All right, my name is Ben Oketona. I'm a professional builder and a contractor and a father and an entrepreneur as well.
Nice to have you here. Interesting. So we have a culture. We always want to hear the story of how it all began, where you met, what your experience was when you first met, and how you decided to take on this journey together.
Well, we met at the university and we coincidentally attended a Congress meeting together, which we had not been attending before, but we both decided separately to attend the meeting that day, and that was where we met. But prior to that, he had seen me, I didn't know him. He had seen me pass like twice in his department, and he said he liked me. So when we met at the Congress, he asked for my name, and that was how it started. And we were friends for a very long time before we got married at the University of Jos. So that was how we met.
University love. I also had the privilege of meeting my husband too while in school. So, sir, what was the journey like getting married? What were the things that made you decide to settle down? What attributes did you see? What were the signals you got that made you decide that this is where your bus stops?
Well, at that time, I just found that we needed to take the relationship to the whole new level. And obviously, we had finished school and I felt that I had secured a job. I had secured a job that time. And she also was hunting for a job. If I'm not mistaken, that time she was hunting for a job. And we felt like, well, what is left other than to just consummate it? We thought that, oh, we have resources at our disposal, very little resources that we can put to best use. because when two come together, you tend to make the best of your resources. You'll be able to manage it better. So, well, that's basically what prompted us to say, okay, let's take it to the next level.
Wow, fantastic. So on this journey, I had the privilege of chatting a bit with Madame yesterday, and she mentioned that when you started your journey, you were living with your parents before you moved into your own accommodation. So how was the experience like starting, being at home with in-laws, and what did you do to ensure that your relationship with in-laws started on a good note? Because oftentimes how we start is a pointer to a lot of things that will happen within the relationship and in the continuous fellowship with in-laws. So what were the things you did? How did it all begin with in-laws?
Just like I said yesterday, the in-law, the parents we stayed with was just his mom, because his dad had passed at that time, and there was no other person in the house except his other siblings had also gone in search of greener pastures. So it was just him, his mom, and me. And prior to the time we got married, I developed a relationship with his mom. So she was also like a mother to me. So there was really not much difference. And the only thing was that we just needed to have our own space, and then to learn how it is to be on your own, because then we didn't really know much we didn't experience being on our own, because if we got broke, we just like I said earlier yesterday to you, if we got broke, we had interventions from his mom. She was a businesswoman who had her money, so she always intervened if we got broke. So we didn't really know how it was to be on your own until we moved out. I mentioned that we stayed for 3 months. No, I think it was a mix-up. We stayed for 10 months before we moved to our own accommodation.
Wow, interesting. So, okay, so when you moved, there were differences, definitely, right?
Yeah.
Because right now you're talking about her coming in, stepping in financially sometimes and all. How did you manage this change when you moved? I also know that Oga, at that point you were starting your own company.
Yes.
You weren't on salary anymore.
Yes,
So what
that's
were the
true.
financial experiences like when you moved and started out as a couple alone?
Well, it was really, really challenging, and it gave us opportunity to be able to plan and um, well, it kept me on my feet. Let me just put it at that, well, this responsibility will not go away. And all I needed to do was to increase my capacity. The truth about the matter is that you can never wish away responsibility. All the best you can do is to continue to develop capacity and to put in your best, knowing fully well that the responsibility can only grow. So it will not go away. So it was fun. And one thing I learned that period was being a freelancer, you need to believe in yourself. You need to trust God. I mean, that was my biggest gain. Was my biggest lesson, learning how to trust God and to depend on God, because it's really not easy. There was nobody to mentor me, to tell me that, oh, this is the way to go, this is how to do it. I had to learn the rope myself, So I'm not trying to say I'm self-made, but what I'm trying to say is that there was nobody around willing to, or I didn't approach anybody, or I didn't see anybody around I could approach to say, please, how do you do do this. So it was hard to learn the rope. Yes.
Wow, interesting. So, when you started your business, did you have some financial challenges? What was your system managing these challenges until you began to settle and make more money to take care of your home?
Well, the first challenge I had was this is very common to all entrepreneurs. The startup is always very, very challenging. You have need for equipment. Even sometimes when you are asked to come and bid for a job, they don't have the resources to bid. You sometimes it requires that you have to print some certain things. You have to make presentation. You don't even have money, which is very common to every startup business. But now one thing I discovered that I learned in the course of our journey is that it's not everything that you have to spend. You have to save some for the rainy day. So when resources come in, when you get a job, that job is coming to make available resources for tomorrow, because the challenges of tomorrow will definitely come. The blessings of tomorrow will come, the challenges of tomorrow will come, and tomorrow will demand yesterday from you. So if you have saved, so you have to bring it to the table, So those are the lessons I learned on the way.
Wow. How did you support at this time when he was building and needed so much resources? How did you support to keep the home going?
Then we knew that we were in the journey together. So what I took on a paid employment then. So although the salary was really not much, but I started my career as an advert executive in one of the media houses. So I had salary. So when the salary comes and we will now put the resources together, at least we buy the basic needs. We had just one car. Then we go and deposit money in a filling station where we usually go to collect fuel. So just give them money up front so that we won't be stranded, at least for fuel. Then we had a grocery store very close to our house where we used to go and collect things on credit to write down our name, so that if once the money comes, at least we knew that at least there was one constant money coming at the end of the month. We use that to offset it. But if his money comes before the one for the end of the month, we also use his money to offset it. So we're running a common purse then. We didn't have anything like this is your own, this is my own. If anybody that gets the money will go and shop for the house, buy the basic needs we had just one child. We'll buy the basic needs for the child, diapers, food, and the rest. So that was how we kept getting by until things started getting a little easier for us.
Well, interesting. I noted that you mentioned you usually go and drop like upfront, pay for fuel that will take you through the month. So,
Yes.
So like Mr. Ben was talking about planning before time. It means that you knew how much fuel you would use within that period, and you could plan for that. You could also plan for your daughter and all that within that time. That shows a lot of planning coming into this and thought. I think that it is beneficial for people listening to be able to have a budget, to know what your monthly expenses are, so that you can put it together. That's so powerful. And then I also wanted to ask, as you spoke about having a child coming in, what was the experience moving into parenthood for you? How did it happen? I know that you had some challenges initially having a child. You had some miscarriages and all, So what was the transition like? How did you navigate those challenges and then eventually having a child?
Okay.
Okay.
Having a child was really, really a wonderful experience. After all the challenges we passed through, we eventually had a child, and it was a wonderful experience. When we had the child, the day we had the child, both of us did not sleep. We were just looking at her, and we pledged, we continued to say, oh, we'll give our best to this child and the others that will come after her. And we resolved that we were going to raise our children in a godly way. It was challenging at first because I discovered that if she had to cry, it was me that they would take her to. That was the first shock. I'll say culture shock. Let me use that word. That was the first shock that I had, that, oh, so if this child cries, I can't take the child elsewhere. It will be me. But altogether, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I think, interestingly, having the child, one would have expected that it will compound our situation. But in all honesty, it rather brought a relief to us. That's when I knew that having a child indeed is a blessing. You know, what we're going through that time, I thought maybe having a child will add to our responsibility, and then we strain our finances. But on the contrary, in fact, it opened doors for us. I noticed that the things that we struggled with before we had our first child, most of them just fizzled away when she came. You know, things started getting better. So, indeed, having a child is a blessing, and the doors that were not opening before then were just opening of their own accord. So this was my first. I was really shocked. That was my first experience, and I was like, wow. And when the second came, it got better. When the third came, it got much, much better.
Wow, interesting. You know, I wanted to come back to what you said concerning having this shock that, oh, when the child cries, you know, that realization that I'm now a mother. Now, many people, when they get into marriage and they are, we all have been there, right? Expecting to have a child and being a parent and all. Sometimes those lessons don't settle in, that when this child comes, we'll be solely responsible until the experience really comes. And then it hits us and we are like, wow, this is it. So I'm a mother, I'm responsible for another entire human being, to give them their initial basic needs until they're able to stand on their own. So I want us to move back a bit and then talk about the experience with the miscarriage. How did you go through that challenge? What were the support that you got during those I think it was more than one, right? The miscarriages. What were the support that you had? How did the both of you face it and all?
The miscarriages were very unpleasant experiences, but to the glory of God, we had each other first as support systems. These people have been through it before, and this is how they overcame. So we had a lot of support. We had friends who supported us. We had family members who were always praying for us and praying with us. It got to a point, there was a time after, I think, the third one miscarriage, that we were praying one day, and my husband said, he was in his prayers, he said, Lord, even if you don't give us a child, you are still God. And you know, I opened my eyes and I got angry, that what kind of prayer is that? He said, no, even if the Lord decides not to make us parents, he is still God. And that was why, when I broke down and began to cry, that no, I will not have that. he still has to give me, because he said in his word that none shall be barren in the land, so I will not be barren. And we thank God. Few months after that incident, after that particular incident, I took him, and to the glory of God, I carried the baby to full term and I gave birth.
Wow, interesting. So, sir, what was the hardest part for you during this period with the miscarriages and all?
Yeah, well, the hardest part for me was seeing her go through all the procedures, before. Oftentimes you have to go to get uh, uh, a service strengthened. Yes, So my greatest challenge was just seeing her go through. I wish it was something that could help out. I mean, something that could assist in. But through it all, I was not really, really worried about the situation. I was only concerned about how she will cope. Just like she rightly said, that period, I just trusted God that, well, whatever will be, will be. I mean, anything, God will not, he said, we will not withhold any good thing from us. So, and all these promises, I trust that I know that God will keep his promises. So my concern that time was how she will weather this situation and be able to stand and go through it. But thank God, God saw us through.
Wow, interesting. So, Ma, same question. What was the hardest part of this whole experience for you? What was the most challenging part of it?
And the most challenging were those times, as a first time mom, you begin to shop for baby things, you start buying things, imagining how you will take care of your baby, how the baby will look, and at the end of the day, you find out that the journey is abruptly terminated, and sometimes they have to now pack those things and go and hide them from me so that I'll not be seeing them, because after each miscarriage, I'll come back home, gather the things I bought and begin to look at them and cry. And that time the hardest part was coming back home without the baby, and coming back home looking at those items that I had already bought for the baby, and having to now look at them and begin to imagine if the baby had, if the pregnancy had not been terminated, how I would have been happy. Those were the hardest parts. After each miscarriage, I came back home, to an empty house. And when you are pregnant, you begin to attend antenatal with some other women, and you form a bond, like a friendship with them. The hardest part would be after when they now give birth to their own children, they may call you or send a text that, oh, me, I've put to bed, and then you see that yours is not, you could not bring home your own child. So those were the hardest parts, but eventually I also overcame. When I brought home my own baby too, I at least I could use those items for the baby, and that was when the healing process began. The good thing is that God puts forgetfulness in our minds as humans, so much so that as soon as the challenges you are going through is over, you forget all the other pain you have gone through. That was what happened to me.
Wow, that's so true. The ability to forget is a powerful tool that we are able to, like how you say, forget my pain, forget my father's house, the struggles and all. And God gives us a beautiful story at the end of the day. So just to recap, listener, we've been talking with Mr. and Mrs. Ben Oketona. And here they have shared with us a couple of things. They shared with us concerning their financial struggles, where we learned that even though they didn't have much, they had a system to plan and to budget. And then another major thing they shared with us was that they, even when they had to go into debt, it was something the both of them were aware of. One person wasn't going into debt for the family. They did it together, so they knew what was in what they needed to pay back together, and they had a plan to work it out. And because their resources were small, they pulled in everything. Nobody held back any part to say, this is mine, I have to hold on to this and all. Then we have also talked about their experience with some miscarriages they had in the early parts of their relationship, the challenge with it, the pain that they went through, and they've told us their anchors. First of all, it was God, relying on their faith and praying consistently, trusting God. Now they did this together because they had prayer sessions together and all. Another thing that they had was they had each other. They were there for each other. So they weathered the challenge together. It was not one person struggling through the pain and the other sitting back and watching. Then, of course, they had family and friends to support them. The family system is such a great and awesome place to find support and to find strength when we have challenges. I really hope for you that as you work together as a couple, you do your best to ensure that you maintain a strong family relationship, a strong relationship with in-laws and with your own primary family, so that when you need them, they step in for you. And have friends also, because the circle of friends is really powerful. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir and ma'am. As we continue, I want to ask,
Thank you.
yeah, I want to ask if let's assume there's somebody watching this right now and they are going through challenges. They have delay with childbirth, or maybe they are also experiencing series of um on that's interrupted pregnancies that do not reach term. What would be your recommendation to them? What would you say to them?
Well, what I would say is, I haven't gone through it before. What I would say is that don't panic. Don't panic. Be anxious for nothing. Actually, when you panic, you make it difficult. You make it extremely difficult for yourselves when you panic. There's absolutely nothing that has happened to you or that's happening to you that's not happened to people before. And you definitely overcome. What I want to say is that you draw strength from each other. You encourage each other. You take your eyes off the pain. You encourage, you encourage each other and stand. Well, when we went through what we had to go through, we were together. I mean, most parts of the day is 24 hours in a day. I think we spend more than close to 15 hours together,
Yes.
close to 15 hours. So I think it's very, very important to draw strength from each other and to encourage each other. And agreeing to go through it together is priceless. It's priceless. So I think there's absolutely nothing that can not be surmountable. Yes.
Well, thank you. Ma, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I just, if any woman is going through what we went through, I would like to tell the woman that now, 22 years ago when we got married, the health system was not this good. There were lots of assumptions. They will assume that this could be what is happening, this could be what is responsible. But now the health system has really improved. You can at last a couple to get a good health care system, to get a good doctor, a good gynecologist to determine what is actually wrong before you begin to blame anybody. Most of the time, it is just a minor issue that is wrong, that is treatable. So it is better, first of all, to seek the face of God to direct you to a very, very good hospital where they can attend to you, treat you very well, and before you know it, it will become a thing of the past. And then when you are going through it, don't let it be what you put in front of you. For instance, don't wear a gloomy face. Ensure that you rejoice with those that are rejoicing. Then in church, I used to, anybody that had children, then I'll be the one carrying the child, I'll be the one in front, taking care of the baby for them. And that was where I drew my strength from. I never had a time when they were having maybe a birthday party and they invited me and I said no, because I don't have children, I will not go. I